as I said, there is the College Success textbook is on Moodle, so that's where you'll access your content. There are a few other topics underneath. I think we go from chapter 1 through 8 or 9, and then we jump to 12. We're skipping some chapters that I think you won't be interested in. And then if we need them, we'll go beyond that. But if you it looks like if this is our number, we have enough. 9 times 4 would be 36. I don't think we have any more than that in here. Hopefully we can stay within the first, within the college success chapters. The other ones, I don't know, if somebody really feels compelled, they could present another one, I guess. Okay, last week I did not really get a lot into the content, and I did not want to go into the syllabus because, at least in the previous semester, we had a lot of change from week 1 to week 2. How many were here last week? Raise your hand, please. Okay, so how many were here? Again, if you didn't hear the question, how many of you were here last week? Raise your hand. Okay, so most of you were here. We didn't have the turnover we did last semester. It seemed like everybody was almost encouraged to just go look around the first week and see what they wanted, which is kind of a chaotic way to start a semester, frankly. So not my preferred way of doing it. And apparently some other people also complained, and they changed it. So maybe next semester I'll actually start in week 1 with the normal way. Let me put it that way. Let's go to the syllabus, and then we will go on to some other subjects. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the syllabus. And I need to, when I switch out of the PowerPoint view, have to, in essence, restart or at least I have to tell it where to go. And switch out of the PowerPoint mode. I think the top part you can figure out on your own. I don't need to go through that. I don't think you need to go through the objectives, but what you probably are mostly interested in is how you get graded for this. So let me go down to the grading. You see first off though, our weekly work is fairly detailed, and you'll also notice that most of it, we don't really use the textbook that much. You do have an abbreviated version of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and you have the College Success book. But any quiz items or anything from the College Success book will not come from the book. They'll come from the student presentation. So you need to be alert to the PowerPoint and to the presentation. You don't really need to, everybody doesn't have to go read the book. So you read your chapter that you're going to present. You become the expert in your chapter, and hopefully you can impart to others what's the important parts of your chapter that you're being the expert in. As a team, I would like you to probably hold yourself to about a half an hour presentation, 30 minutes. So if there are 4 of you, that would be about 7 minutes apiece, plus some startup and review time at the end. There's no way you can really cover a chapter in that length of time completely, and I don't want you to. I want you to go through the chapter and come up with the most important stuff, and and teach it well. I'd rather have you teach less material well than more material badly. I want what you are teaching us to be memorable and valuable. And so you don't have to teach the entire chapter. You teach what you think is important in the chapter, and you teach it well. And that will be the basis of your grade. So I'm not looking for a comprehensive coverage of the entire chapter that you're assigned to, but I expect you to go through it as a team and decide what's really important. and share that with us and share it well with us. Maybe more illustrations, more examples, stuff like that. Let me explain a concept, and I may repeat this later when I talk more specifically on your critique sheet that I'll be basing your grade on. But I still remember a class I took. Let me come up with how many years ago it was. It would be 45 years ago, when I was your age. So you kind of guess my age, old. So 45 years ago, I was sitting in a class like this with a professor of education. And he taught me a concept that I grabbed onto and have used throughout my life because I felt like it was not just important for a teacher, but it was also important for a journalist or for anybody else who's trying to help people understand a new concept. What he taught was a person doesn't fully understand, how do I put this? A teacher doesn't fully help a student understand a new concept without four things. The first one is definition. And the problem with most student presentations is that where you stop. That's where you stop. And that is not adequate in teaching a new concept. The second is vital, and that is illustration. Now, that it does not have to be graphic illustration. It can be verbal illustration. But once you define it, give us an example of it, whether visually or verbally. Give us an example. Help us to see it. The next one is what is it like? In other words, what's it compared to in a positive way? And the last one is what's it different than? How does it contrast with other things? Now, I'm not sure we have to get all the way that you necessarily have to teach the last two, but keep in mind maybe there is, as it comes up, you will see, yes, this is like something else. Well, tell us it. Tell us that. What the principle you're teaching is like something else, teach us. Or this is just the opposite of something else, teach us. But especially, don't stop at definition. If all you give us is a definition, we will not understand it. So at least go as far as illustration. And that may be, again, maybe something on your PowerPoint to give us an example of it in word form or a photo, whatever it takes to help us to see what you're saying. Just a definition is not adequate in teaching something. So, with that in mind, that's why I'm saying I'd rather you teach new concepts well, in other words, remember those four principles, than to teach us badly and just give us definitions and we don't know what you talked about when you're done. Okay, so fewer concepts, better taught is what I'm after. So you do not have to cover the entire chapter. Figure out which are the concepts that are most important and teach them well. And that's how you'll get a good grade. Okay? And we'll go over that a little more another time. Okay, I'm going to go on down to the grading. Again, you've seen lots of videos there to watch. Okay, so your grade is 60% coursework and 40% final exam. By necessity, with a fairly large group like this, a lot of your final exam, last time it had to be all pretty much multiple choice because I had about 100 students. And so I couldn't have any essay whatsoever on it. Plus, we have the self-reflective journal going on, so I didn't feel like I needed to have any essays. This time, with this number, I might be able to there might be an essay on the final exam. I'll know better when we get closer to the end. Last semester, like I say, everything was objective. True, false, multiple choice, maybe matching. No, we couldn't do, last time we had to do it on paper, so we couldn't do matching very well. This time we might do it on Moodle. So your final exam may be on Moodle, which it gives me more variety in what kind of questions I can ask you. So that also will be clarified as we proceed. With your coursework, one will be First off, your weekly quizzes. Everybody's got signed into attendance? So you'll have your weekly quizzes. Before I had quizzes that were worth less every week, not that much less. This time they're worth 2%. Last time, well, they were worth less than 1%. Somewhere around that 0.5%. So I guess that's significant. But still, they're only worth 2% per week, which isn't going to kill you if you bomb out some week. But the last time I had quarterly quizzes that were worth quite a bit, like 10%, or I think it's 10%. This time there's no quarterly quizzes. So every week it's the same amount, 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%. Because I want you to keep up with stuff. I'm not going to overload you with work. As you saw last week, you had a little bit, I think it's an hour and 10 minutes worth of videos to watch. The standard at a university is 2 hours outside of class for every 1 hour in class. Well, that would mean I would give you 4 hours of homework. How many want 4 hours of homework? No, I don't think so. So I gave you an hour's worth of video to watch, which is pretty painless to watch videos. And then you had to do the quiz, which was only like 10 minutes long, but obviously you had to prepare for that. So you had to take some notes on your videos and so forth. And you had to write 200 words. Once you've absorbed all that, if you have watched the videos, and if you have listened in class, and if you've taken some notes, your 200 words should not be very hard. 200 words is pretty easy. And so if you're thinking about stuff, if your brain is into this class, and you're pondering, gee, what does this mean to me? How could I apply this concept to me? That's what you're writing about in only 200 words per week. It's not very much. As I did point out, however, if you do it every week, it is actually a lesson in commitment. In the 15 weeks, that means you will have written 3,000 words. And many of you said, 3,000 words, that's too many. But it's only 200 a week. So if we do something consistently, we can get a lot done. And in this case, you will have written at least 3,000 words by the end of the semester if every week you do your 200. And so your self-reflective journal is 20% of the class. Again, I've mentioned before that it is not, very little of that is based on your grammar and your style. But it's really hard to say. I have a formula someplace, and we'll go over it. Is it down here? I have already put it down here. No, I'll show you the breakdown later. But the biggest part of your grade with your self-reflective journal will be, first off, your reflection on the content the most important content to you that you saw or read or participated in during the week. You can't cover everything. In 200 words, there's no way, if I have you watch 10 videos, you can't say hardly anything about each video, so I don't expect you to. And so you actually could get away without watching the videos with the self-reflective journal. Of course, you wouldn't learn as much, and you wouldn't do as well in your test. I've done scientific study of, I may have mentioned, where I had one group of students do a weekly quiz and another group of students do a weekly article about what we learned in class, and the ones that did the weekly article did better than the ones who did the weekly quizzes. And I never had a chance to test it. I may yet do it in my lifetime. But my belief is that those who wrote a short article every week about what they learned would kill the quiz students after a year or something. Because those, by thinking about stuff, by working it in your brain and then expressing it, you make it a longer-term memory. We know how short-term memory is with quizzes. Like half an hour later, you don't remember any of it anymore, right? So quizzes are almost worthless, except the only reason I give quizzes is pretty much because in a large class, that's how I'm going to have to do the final exam. And I really don't want to even do the final exam. Here at Xiamen, somebody else had created, somebody creates a syllabus, and once it's created, we can't change it. And they were, in my case, I'm the one that created the syllabus. However, they were anticipating I might have 200 students a semester teaching in this class. And so with that in mind, I had to put in a final exam that was objective in nature. And now they won't let me change it. So if I had this class and I could change my syllabus every semester, which at other universities I can, I probably would not have an objective test. We do other stuff. All the points would go more maybe towards the reflective journal or something else, not the quiz at all. Or maybe quizzes again to give you incentive to watch the videos on a regular basis, but not part of the final exam. But anyway, it is what it is. So I'm not in love with objective tests. I don't think they're much value other than for motivation to do what you're supposed to do. And if every student just poured themselves in their class, I would be very happy to give every an A, my philosophy, and not have any assessments whatsoever, except that's not the real world, is it? So we have to have assessments. Anyway, so going back, I got off track. So the journal, first off, some review of what it was that really impacted you during the week. Maybe covering 2 or 3 videos at most. No matter how many it is you watched, out of all that, you kind of think about the ones that were most impactful, or something that I presented in class myself. I wouldn't totally ignore Stephen Covey. For one thing, during a lot of the weeks, we will be watching a lot of his videos, and I'll be talking about it in class, both. But some students, because they're trying to avoid work, basically they made their entire reflection based on 2 or 3 videos and nothing about Stephen Covey. And so I'm not sure they even came to class. They had somebody else sign in for them probably. But that didn't do well when they got to the final exam. So that's not a good philosophy. Even if you think you can get away with it, I'm going to be lazy and I'm just going to watch 3 videos, make myself a reflective journal about those 3 videos. I'm not going to come to class. Well, you're going to get stuck on the final exam. And so another reason why I do have quizzes and a final exam for you to have to take. And the other part then is not just a review of what really made sense to you, but then how will you make it part of your life? So you have the review, and then you have the self-reflection. 2 different parts, really. So review and self-reflection. The other part that's lesser points to that, and I don't remember exactly the points off the top of my head. The other part, again, is yes, there are some points assigned to how you express yourself. And part of that is just how many words did you actually do, 200 words. But if I can understand what you're trying to say, I'm not real strict on grammar. So you can express yourself, even if your grammar isn't great and you're trying to express something that's meaningful to you, that was what's really important. But I do have to understand it. So do your best to express yourself well. Use grammar check in Word, use spell check in Word. Do the best you can in expressing it. Because actually they're all affected if you don't express yourself well. How do I know, how do I even understand what was meaningful to you if I don't understand what you're saying? So, and how do I assess how your self-reflection if I don't understand what you're saying? So you do need to express yourself as best you can. I can't say that it won't impact your grade. It will. But won't be the point of it. I won't be sitting there going check, check, check. Misspelling, check, check, check. That's not the objective of it. Are you expressing yourself so I can understand it? That's the point of it. Okay. And then, of course, your presentation is 10%. You're doing that as a team. about 30 minutes long as a team. I'll go into more, be more explicit in how that's graded, but basically the quality of your PowerPoint as a team, the content of what you included. Was it really valuable? Did you really find the best stuff in the chapter that was really meaningful to people? And delivery, how did you express it? How did you teach it? Kind of combination of content and delivery is, did you teach the concept effectively? Or were you just running off definitions? Or in some cases, some people have done lists and never even defined the terms, let alone teach the terms. So did you, in your teaching, really explain to us the concepts that you're trying to teach us? And so that's part of content and also part of delivery, both of them. And then the last part is kind of a conglomeration. Were you on time? As a team, you're supposed to do two things. You're supposed to give me a hard copy. It can be the form of 6 slides per page, not a separate page for every slide, but 6 slides per page is fine, so that I can follow it and kind of make notes on it. And so that you should be handing that to me before you start your presentation. And secondly, you then, Howard, do also send me the electronic version, and I would expect to have that, if not before class, by the time I get to my room after class, because if it's not there, I can't. I have too many students, not just in here, but I have 100 students in another class of mine, and they're also doing presentations. And so if I don't grade it immediately, then I'll start forgetting my evaluation, what I was thinking. And so I pretty much have to grade it immediately, and that includes that you sent me a PowerPoint. And so even if you send it to me a week later, now what do I do? Then I have to go backwards and try to regrade, and I don't have time to do that. So you need to send me the electronic version, have it in my mailbox at the time that you present, or almost immediately thereafter. Because as soon as I sit down to grade, to mark up your evaluation, I need to see that you have completed that. Otherwise, there'll be deductions. Also, part of your assignment that falls into this miscellaneous category is that you are supposed to write questions based on your presentation, questions with answers, obviously. And those questions may become part of the weekly quiz and eventually the final exam. So if you do a good job of writing good questions, you can expect that it could very well show up in quizzes and exams. And that's to your benefit, because you should know the answer if you wrote the question, right? So write good questions and write good answers. If your answers are stupid, in other words, if any idiot could figure out which was the wrong answer, I'm not going to use that question, right? Or if you write a question that I don't even understand, or whatever, it's too simple, too simple or too hard. If you write a question, what's the topic on page 222 of the book? That's an exaggeration, but I've seen questions almost that hard, to where it's ridiculous. It's so unimportant and yet so hard to remember and so irrelevant that I would never use that question. And so make your questions relevant, make them important, and give good answers, and your question may be among those used in the quizzes, the weekly quiz, and in the final exam, which, as I said, is to your benefit. So that's part of the miscellaneous, is did you give questions? As a team, I would say, well, let me put it this way. As a team overall, you need probably at least 5 questions for your 30-minute presentation. About 5 questions overall. Whether you assign it out and one apiece and then come up with one together or whatever, I don't care. But and how you that may be at the well, let me put it this way. If the questions are at the very, if you put the questions at the end of each person's presentation, then I'll know who made the question. If you put it at the end, then I have to assume that you all did equally in the questions, good, bad, or ugly. And so I don't really care which way you do it. Each person could present their own question when they were done, or you could present them at the end. I don't care, but if they're after each person's section, then I attribute it to that person. If they're at the end, I attribute the questions to everybody equally. And like I said, if they're bad questions, or if yours is the only good one, and everybody else is bad, I have to assume you were part of the overall decision-making of creating all those questions if it's at the end, because I won't know whose is whose. Unless you tell me, I guess. Unless you show it. Okay, any questions on how you're being graded then? I think it's pretty straightforward. It does keep you busy every week. I mean, it has you doing something every week, and you should not get behind. I'm not going to, last semester, at least the last semester I taught this, I kept having people coming and saying, oh, I didn't have time, open it up again. Let me do the quiz now. No, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to give you plenty of time to do the quiz. I'm going to give you plenty of time. Like I said, I'm not giving you an overwhelming amount of homework. And so I want you to keep up and do a good job with it. Make it part of your regular routine. But if I'm gonna open up a quiz for you again, you're gonna have to come to me with an excuse from academic affairs. It got ridiculous how many people were coming. Oh, whatever, my frog died, my pet died, I had to go have a funeral for my pet. Or whatever. No, whatever. Okay, any questions then? Again, any questions? Well, we don't be shy to ask questions. We talked about it last time. I know the Asian way is to be quiet, listen, respectful. That's not the American way. I respect people who argue with me. If they argue reasonably, that's fine. I mentioned that I can think of one person in particular that is now working for British Council who always argued with me. But I really had reasoned arguments, and I actually thought it contributed to the class to have somebody challenge me and make me defend myself. So that was maybe a more controversial class than this one might be, but you may disagree with some of the things that are taught, and that's fine. Argue if you want to. That's fine. But at least don't be shy to ask questions. And if you have a question, that probably means that at least several other people have the same question. And so that's the biggest problem. Is in many of my classes, they say, "Do you have any questions?" Everybody sits there. Okay, no questions. So I end the lecture, and about 10 people run up to the desk to ask me questions. Ask it during the class, please, because sometimes those 10 people are asking me the same question, and they just come one at a time to ask me the same question, and that drives me crazy. So you're welcome to come to my office or welcome to stay after class. I will stay after class as long as you need me to answer your questions. But don't be afraid to ask them in class so that everybody can hear it and everybody can get the answers. There are no dumb questions. Well, there may be dumb questions, but if you're listening, there's probably no dumb questions. If you're sleeping and suddenly wake up and, whoops, how are we going to get graded again? Then that's a dumb question because you should have listened. Anyway, if even on the grading, if something's not clear, please ask the question. I'm using that perhaps as a bad example. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. Yep, it did go back. Good. Hopefully by now you have signed up for Moodle, for the Moodle version of the course. If you haven't, then you already missed the first week's quiz. Although I think, because I wasn't sure how many people were going to change the course, I think the quiz is still open. And I think your reflective journal entry is still open. But it won't always be that way. I'm going to start cutting down the time a little bit as we go forward, presuming that you're all on Moodle and presuming that you're all set to go. And so every week will not give you as much time as this week. For one thing, in fact, the quizzes themselves may end up being available during only a very short period of time, because what I find too often is that people are teaming up to do all the quizzes and they're not really learning the material very well. And so in order to discourage that, I close down the time, make it very short, so that you kind of have to do it quickly on your own. So in my other class, I give people 1 minute per question. And I do limit how much time they have to access it. But once they open the quiz, they've got 10 minutes. Basically, if there's 10 questions, they have 10 minutes. So I think I did that also with your quiz this time, as far as limiting the time. But I gave you a lot of time to team up and come up with answers, which you're not going to remember them as well as if you're doing it as a team than if you're doing it on your own. And especially if you're not even watching the video. So you're not even watching the video. Somebody else, we have a bunch of people. Each person watches 1 or 2 videos, and then we help each other with the answers. Well, you're not learning much then. So I can't encourage that. And so I need to try to force you to do more work on your own. I'm not demanding excessive work, so thus you're going to have a shorter period of time to access the quiz, and still probably 1 minute per question. But I'm going to try to discourage you from doing too much teamwork. I'd rather you do it individually and learn something from it. So anyway, the enrollment key, in case anybody has not signed up yet, is right there, Success 2018. Hopefully you're already there. Okay, we kind of brought up a subject last week. What is success? What is happiness? Some people equate the two. Success is happiness. Some people think they're only going to be happy, though, if they have $1 million. Or they're only going to be happy if they're famous, or whatever. So they do equate the two, but their definition has almost become synonymous. I'll be happy when I'm successful by whatever terms they count success. Oh, okay. We are going to come back to that subject. I want to show you a couple other things first. I think I already told you last week that it's good for you to make a copy of the questions, because those questions may be reused in some form. Again, they may be rewritten, so don't just remember answers. You're going to have to understand the questions. Again, a reason to do it yourself. One piece of software, it's a freeware, it costs absolutely nothing. It's called IrfanView. It is basically like PageMaker, but it has some different functions. I use IrfanView usually instead of instead of Photoshop, I meant to say. It's like Photoshop, but free, first off, and I like some of its functions better. I encourage you to download it. Just Google that. You'll find a download site. But one of the functions specifically for what we're talking about, what I wanted to tell you about, is one here called Capture Screenshot. You can find it under the options, but also if you just hit C in the keyboard, it pops up. No Control C, no anything else, just C. It pops up. And it allows you to capture the screen. You have the choice of capturing your mouse if you want to also. Say you're wanting to show how to do something like this. Then actually I think when I took this picture, oh yeah, I do have a mouse. So you see the mouse right here. So showing the mouse along with the blue coloring that the software gives to the things that I'm pointing at. So it captures the screen more precisely than just your screen print, or print screen, whatever you call it. And besides that, it gives you the option of naming it what you want to name it, saving it in the format, such as TIFF is a pretty high quality. if you're doing a PowerPoint. You can save it in TIFF. You can save it where you want it. So you can build a folder and put all of your screen captures into the folder in TIFF with the name you want and so forth. Now, when I say name you want, maybe I should show it. Is it open? Yeah. Let me go to that. And again, I'm going to have to do it open for me. Okay, I guess it is open. Okay, let me move this up a little bit so you can see it all. Okay. So if I hit C on the keyboard, bam, it looks like that. So when naming it down here, I only name the first part because the rest then will put them in sequence. So it'll say, SS number 1, SS number 2, SS number 3, and it'll also give you the exact date and time that you did it. So if you ever lose track, where is this screen capture, it will give you all that information automatically. So you can change. So all I change is the first part. So for success strategies, I put SS there. So I know it relates to success strategies, but now when I start doing my screen captures, it's success strategies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the exact date and the exact time that I did it. So there's no question, about finding the one I wanted. I save mine as TIFF, but you have other options. It's a good quality. TIFF is a very good quality, so I choose TIFF. And I tell it I wanted these put into my Success Strategies folder, the Week 2 subfolder. So all of this I have an option for, which is not like your print screen on your computer. You can use that, but also what you capture is not the same. On your print screen, you're not going to capture your mouse, and you're not going to. And in fact, when you get into Moodle, you'll find in some cases it won't let you capture anything, but EarthView will. So there's basically almost nothing that EarthView won't let you capture. I don't know. In fact, you will see in a second it captures shots out of a video. Sometimes your print screen doesn't let you do that, or at least doesn't give you very good quality if you do that. So this will capture anything on your screen. So I suggest you use it. I just got to cancel out of that. There's other things, so to capture, you just hit Control F11 as its default. So Control F11, you'll hear a little ding. That means you've captured it. There's some other stuff that in some cases, I haven't even experimented with them that much. I just take the full screen and I crop it. The cropping, let me get out of this. Once you capture it, if you only want a piece of it, you can just use your mouse to make a box around the part you want. Let's maybe just bring something up here. Okay, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I captured that. I have no idea. Weird. Not even, okay. Well, if I wanted to crop that, I would just go ahead and I would take the mouse and just draw a little box around it, what I wanted to crop. I'd go to Edit and go down to your crop selection. So it'd come down to whatever I circled were boxed with my, and then if I already have chosen where to save it, I can just go back here and say save it in the same folder where I put it in the first place. Or I can do a save as and put it someplace else, whatever I want to do. So that's pretty easy. I'm not going to try to teach you all the powers of EarthView. It does have all sorts of image options, resizing and rotating it and all sorts of stuff that is valuable, like Photoshop is valuable. But for our purposes here, I won't bother to get into that. Okay, so I'm going to close that and go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, good. So going forward here, to give you an example, I captured the quiz from another class. And so I just went to the quiz and I hit Control F11, meaning it gave me the quiz. So I mentioned you should get a copy of your questions so that you can study them for the final exam. Again, they may not be exactly the same questions, but they'll be pretty similar. I can capture things off the internet. And this is my YouTube channel. Here in the back of my head. But what I was trying to show here was not about the picture, but that all of my lectures I put on YouTube and then I embed back into Moodle. If you hit the CC, it will turn on the closed caption or the subtitles. So if you have trouble understanding me in class, I sound much better on YouTube. By the way, you guys do too. When you guys give your presentations, for some reason I can understand it a lot better when I listen to the video. I don't know why. But I do. It may not, it's pretty good at capturing that in spite of your accents, but obviously it's a little more challenging to do it. But at least mine, since it's made in America, it's going to capture my subtitles pretty well, but not perfectly. So don't count on it being perfect as you're listening. If you do choose to go and turn on the closed captions to see what I said at the same time that you're listening, do listen closely and you will see that it makes mistakes sometimes. So don't bet your life on the subtitles being totally accurate, because they won't be. So there's that I wanted to show. And then also wanted to again point out, hit the ... You have the option of opening the transcript. And if you open the transcript, you will see something like that, where now everything is also, the subtitles in the entire file here, you can save it all, put it into a Word file or whatever you want to do if you want the transcript for studying later or quoting me in your self-reflection entry or whatever you want to do. Okay, any questions on that? So it's I find her review extremely helpful, and I hope that that my putting my lectures up on YouTube and then on Moodle will also be helpful to some of you. Okay, so today I want to spend some time just going through some videos that are assigned for this week. I probably have a little more than an hour's worth here, especially since one of them is 30 minutes. So we'll be spending some time in class listening to some of them. So you might want to take some notes so you don't have to listen to them again. You'll have already watched them in class. But in class we'll frequently watch some videos, and we'll discuss them as part of the class. So even though the list may be a little bit longer than an hour, hopefully we'll cover some in class so it gets down closer to an hour of actual independent viewing. So I'm not sure if he'll well, yeah, maybe it looks like it will. I'm going to start off. This one is actually from last week, and you maybe watched it, but I think it's fairly short and it's good enough. I hope this one made you think a little bit, or maybe made you all feel like a failures. I don't know. It makes me feel like a failure compared to him, but Farrah Gray is that 14-year-old millionaire. Quite amazing what he accomplished. I'm not sure if that is going to come up when I just clicked on it. I don't think so. Now let me go to this one anyway. I'll do it from here. I'm going to go back a second. I'm going to turn off the my video. We had some technical difficulties, but we ended our class today by talking a little bit about Stephen Covey, and particularly his first three habits: being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first, but particularly about being proactive. We talked about some people who have changed their lives and turned them totally around because they chose to do so, and how being proactive is the opposite of being reactive, that you make a decision as an independent human being that other animals can't do, of what your life is going to be about, how you're going to react to various stimuli, that you don't have to respond like an animal or whatever to do just what comes natural. You can decide to any stimulus how you will respond. But then we watched these two videos, the ones that are marked in red, Angela Duckworth about the power of grit, and the Joaquim de Posada video about don't eat the marshmallow, and drew this into the discussion about how they can predict which students are typically going to succeed by how much grit they have, and they have a test even for measuring that. Or as the marshmallow test shows, they can predict quite accurately by which children at age 4 can resist eating a marshmallow for 15 minutes with the promise that if they don't eat it, they'll get another one as well. And only about a third of the children can do that. And those third usually are very successful even 14 years later when they're graduating from high school. But we also talked about a study from Stanford about how children, in fact, entire classrooms can be turned around, such as a school of, or a classroom of Native American students in comparison to children that are basically the Microsoft kids in the best part of the Seattle metropolitan area, and how the Native American kids, who typically are at the bottom of achievement in education, were turned around by learning how their minds can grow by accepting new challenges, how they literally can develop new neurons and become stronger, bigger brains, even by learning new things and accepting new challenges, and learning other things that help them believe that they could succeed, and to learn things that before they thought were too hard to learn. And ultimately they outperformed, like I said, the Microsoft kids in this experiment. So the bottom line was that we ourselves need to recognize that we can change. Perhaps we do have some bad habits of not believing in ourselves, not believing that we can change. Maybe we would be among the children who would eat that marshmallow. We have no delayed gratification right now, but that we can change that if we choose to. And so starting next week, we'll begin talking more in detail about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and how people can change their lives if they choose to do so. We did not get to watch all of the videos that we wanted to watch today in class because of the technical difficulties. So you have a couple more that you have to watch outside in preparation for your quiz and in writing your self-reflective journal entry.